So after a degree in economics, training to be an accountant, and then working as an investment analyst, I've spent 15 years studying money, and I've read more books on money than I care to count. And I think Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors in history, said it best. I can think of no better way to become more intelligent than to sit down and read. In fact, that's what I mostly do. But here's the problem. Most books on money are hundreds and hundreds of pages for one good idea buried in there. So I've created the exact reading list of 15 books, transformed my financial understanding forever, and will make you rich. And I guarantee some of these will surprise you. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. So for me personally with this book, the main takeaway here is that the principles and the ideas in this book are kind of timeless. And so I'd recommend this as a great place to start. And this book really gives you the ultimate roadmap for how you can escape the 9-to-5 and start to build a life that you want to live. Now, don't get me wrong, it sounds nuts from the start because the well-worn path that we're told is best goes something like this. Go to school, get good grades, go to university, get into a graduate scheme, grind away for decades and hope you can squirrel away enough maybe one day to retire. And let's face it, that's not the most appealing idea, frankly. And the books talk about deal, definition, elimination, automation, liberation. The more you get into the book, the better it gets at outlining that it wasn't all about working less or finding new ways to cut back on your hours, but instead the bigger focus should be on working smarter. And this way of thinking really opens your eyes up to the possibility of earning money outside the traditional job setup, outside the regular 9-to-5. But critically, this book gives you the tools and the guidance to actually make it happen. The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by Jack Bogle. So let's start off by paying our dues to Jack Bogle, a man that has, I think it's fair to say, really pioneered and opened the door for the everyday person to be an investor. We salute you. He basically had the idea of an index fund, that you can buy a weighted investment that mimics all the stocks in any given index, a product which also has fees that are absolute peanuts compared to actively managed funds, but also will very often beat those actively managed funds. And despite coming out in 2007, so nearly 20 years old, all the advice that is in there stands up to modern scrutiny, and I suspect, frankly, will stand up for another 20 years. The book goes into the right amount of detail on index funds, and he also takes time to really explain why fees are the devil, a topic that we have covered extensively on the channel. Because fees are the other half to investing returns, the benefit of compound interest that can let your investment portfolio grow over time can all be undone by excessive fees, which will also compound over time. Your fees will only get larger and larger from one year to the next, which is why you have to keep an eye on them. And the book really spells this out. I also think there's this great quote from the book: "Don't look for the needle in the haystack, just buy the haystack." Next up, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. The first step to getting better with money, to really winning with money, is to change the way you think about money. So many of us have a warped view of money, warped by social media, by pop culture, by the myths of money and the successes that are constantly thrown in our face day and night. But this book, I think, turns so much of that thinking on its head right from the get-go. The premise of the book is doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave and your money habits. It also talks about that for most people, investing in bog standard, low-cost index funds is going to be more than sufficient for them to build wealth rather than pretending they're some, superstar stock picker. Another thanks to Jack Bogle for that one. Some of the other key ideas from the book that I just absolutely love are: you don't need a specific reason to save. It's a very good habit to have nonetheless. Do not aim to be coldly rational when making financial decisions. Just aim to be pretty reasonable. This is a big one, which is going to be a hot topic for our next book. Controlling your time is the highest dividend money pays. I'm pleased that this idea keeps coming up on this list, but more on that a bit later. It really emphasizes that money is not the be-all and end-all. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Remit Sethi. Can I be totally honest with you on this one? This is, in my view, the best personal finance book out there, because it goes beyond just the money decisions that you make, as the title suggests. It's about building a rich life, not just a rich bank account. So the thing I like most about this book is that it's action-focused. And I think that's one of the things I really look for in these books these days. Having read so much about the theory of money in economics or accounting, to actually find books that give you practical steps for how you can manage your money or improve your finances is really refreshing. But this book, I think, gets the balance right between the bare bones basics of personal finance and some of the more advanced, more high-level stuff that you need to get right with your finances. But this book is also pretty unlike some of the other personal finance books. But Remit Sethi has some pretty wild views in the personal finance world, like buying as much coffee as you like, growing your net worth as well as your income. There's no point earning more if you just spend more. Talks about the difference between people who are cheap and the people who are conscious spenders, having an unlimited budget for your health, always flying first class for any flight over 6 hours. All of this is way beyond the norms for personal finance books. Now, I'll tell you what, at the end of this video, I'll do a quick gold, silver, and bronze for the best books on the list. So make sure you stick around for that. I put this next one here on the list because I really think it does a good job of linking this topic and the next one, The Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway. So Scott Galloway is a professor of marketing at NYU's Stern School of Business, but he's recently expanded into podcasting with the Prof G podcast with Ed Elson, Pivot with Kara Swisher, and Raging Moderates with Jessica Tarlov. His formula, and just so we're clear, this isn't some spoiler because the book forms around this, but his formula for wealth is this. Wealth equals focus times stoicism times time times diversification. Now, unlike so many other traditional personal finance books, in my personal view, this book has a lot of just great life advice in there, which feels like it's becoming a running theme on this list. That looking beyond the spreadsheet is a really key component of managing money in the way that really suits you. Another myth that he busts, which given that he is very, very wealthy himself is quite refreshing, is he consistently points out that most people think that wealth will come from a one-time big liquidity event, winning the lottery, a company IPO, a bonus, an inheritance. And he goes on to note that in reality, you're more likely to become wealthy with a slow and steady wins the race attitude, as opposed to zero to hero. And I think he's right to point out that more time should be spent on maximizing long-term happiness and less time obsessing about money and stock market returns and net worth. But Scott Galloway also acknowledges the role that luck plays in your finances. He says in one interview, most of his friends were smart enough to be born with rich parents. And I think that's a nice way of acknowledging the role that luck plays. Make more money. So in this segment, I want to cover off some of the best books on how you can make more money, whether it's your negotiation skills, how to get a better job, be better at identifying what you're good at, becoming a master networker. All of these things will help play a role in how you can make more money. So our next book is Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if Your Life Depended on It by Chris Voss. Now, this is an interesting setup for a book. The author, Chris Voss, was in the police in Kansas City and then joined the FBI, where he trained to become a negotiator. After he finished that training, he says, and it says in the description of the book, his career as a kidnapping negotiator brought him face to face with bank robbers, gang leaders, and terrorists. And then after working on more than 150 international hostage cases, he retired from the FBI in 2007 and wrote this book in 2016. And here's the truth of it. As the book says, life is negotiation. And whether you're asking for a raise, buying a car, having a row with your spouse, or trying to work from home more, you are negotiating. And one of the key things is that emotions drive these sorts of decisions, not logic. And this is a mistake that I think so many people make. They look at a book like this and think it only applies when they're moving jobs and they want a better salary. But in my view, kind of really misses the point. Negotiation is absolutely everywhere. But the book will also help you define the kind of negotiator you are and what you can do to therefore be a better negotiator. $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. So this book by Noah Kagan, who I would describe as being a serial entrepreneur, but he got an interesting start. He was employee number 30 at Facebook, got equity like most early employees do at startups, but was then subsequently fired, which he says ended up costing him over $100 million. And given that Facebook is chasing down a $2 trillion market cap, seems perfectly plausible. He's now CEO of AppSumo. And so I think it's fair to say that even with those two hits on his CV, he knows a thing or two about starting businesses. Now, this book is jam-packed with tips, processes, templates, and really gives practical advice basically right from the get-go. But also the process of how to pick a business that you're going to go into, finding something you have a competitive advantage in, that's scalable, that has a total addressable market that you can sell to. All these sorts of things are included in the book in a step-by-step process. And to accommodate that, the book is divided into 3 sections: start it, build it, grow it. And personally, I think that $1 Million Weekend is one of the best entrepreneurial books out there. The book talks about how many entrepreneurs spend too much time and resources on perfecting their ideas instead of testing them out in the real world. Now, don't get me wrong, the whole move fast and break stuff thing is a meme in and of itself at this point, but this book feels a bit more refined than that, which frankly, I have to say I do really appreciate. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So this book came out nearly 100 years ago and was originally published in 1936 and has sold over 30 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling books of all time at this point. And it has even reached the dizzying heights of being the book of choice for our old pal Warren Buffett, who we kicked the video off with. He realized early on in his career he was going to have to be a better communicator and overcome his deathly fear of public speaking. Take a listen.
That's relatively easy. I did it myself with the Dale Carnegie course. But it's just hugely important. And if you invest in yourself, nobody can take it away from you.
And he gives the book an enormous amount of credit for helping him become one of the wealthiest people in the world. Success in life and in business often depends less on intelligence and hard skills and more about your ability to deal with people. This book teaches you timeless principles for effective communication, building rapport, and influencing other people, but without kind of gross manipulation. And the book really focuses on how to improve your communication style. And frankly, I think it's an endorsement just based on the number of copies it's sold. I think that speaks for itself. Macro money. Now, whilst you can imagine a world where you're making perfect personal finance decisions, the view has always been on this channel that you need to understand the wider economy and how it really works, and therefore how you fit into it. What does it mean when interest rates increase, and what might drive that? You don't need to be an economist, but a decent understanding can really help. The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. Sorry to bring him up again, this is getting a bit embarrassing, but this is the book that Warren Buffett read when he was 19, and he still calls the best book on investing that has ever been written. The ideas and the principles in the book are pretty timeless, frankly, but it also illustrates how investing over the long term doesn't require any specialist knowledge. It basically just requires two things: a rational framework to make decisions and not letting your emotions go absolutely into overdrive and override your rational framework. Benjamin Graham covers how the market behaves, the basic fundamentals of finance, and ultimately how you can maintain control of your psychology. Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics. Now, I know that these are two books, but I'm going to count them as one on this list because they are very much related and written by the same authors. And I must say, it's been years since I read these books, but the whole premise of both books is to use economics to explore questions like, what do school teachers and sumo wrestlers have in common, and why walking drunk is more dangerous than driving drunk, although I'm not advocating either necessarily. But the takeaway that I got from both of the books is that people respond to incentives. It's the fundamental basis for everything you study in economics. And once you realize that, it makes how you interact with the world just much more objective, I guess. But you combine this with some of the other books that we have on the list, like Dale Carnegie, then that's the dream team. That's mixing the subjective and the objective. Next, The Armchair Economist by Stephen Landsberg. Now, haters will say that this is the same as the other books in this segment, but that is undoubtedly sort of true. But they all bring something slightly different to the discussion. And the truth is that unless you're going to go into hardcore economic theory, these act as pretty good proxies for at least some of the underlying theories. At least that's my view. And the key message of this book really is that economic logic applies everywhere, and thinking like an economist can change how you see everything from love to taxes. Now, I will confess, I think we need a book that is somewhere between the book we've discussed here and a straight-up economics textbook. I've not really found one that does, in my view, a good enough job, so let me know in the comments below if you have any suggestions. I'd be really interested to hear what you all think. Master your money. So let's say you've mastered the basics of personal finance, how the economy works, nailed it, and you want to take your finances to the next level. What are some of the books that you can read that really help you do that, to go from a finance Jedi Knight to a money Jedi Master? The Boglehead's Guide to Investing. Now, this book isn't strictly written by Jack Bogle, but very inspired by it. Let me explain. The Bogleheads are best described as investing enthusiasts who worship, maybe that's too strong a word, who follow the advice of Jack Bogle and his investing advice. They live for the index fund, they follow principles like diversification and long-term investing and so on. And the book is written by 3 of these Boglehead followers and covers most of the key points in the Little Book of Common Sense Investing. But it also has practical advice when it comes to your own personal finances, specifically things like how to balance your emotions when investing for your kids, and things like that. I think the book offers some contrarian investing advice, but specifically, it's the first step in the road to investing success, and really dives into how relying on typical common sense that's promoted by Wall Street and big banks is ultimately destined to leave you poorer. The Automatic Millionaire, a powerful one-step plan to live and finish rich by David Buck. You know, one of the things that I think helps people go from good with money to great with money are some of the principles that you get from this book. A key part of building wealth is automate it. We talk about it all the time on the channel, to go from being a sporadic saver to a consistent investor. That is key. Arguably one of the most important components in the book. And it covers important things like figure out your latte factor, pay yourself first, and so on. And in chapter 2 of the book, David Buck tells this story about one of his students who says she can't save $10 a day. But he points out that she spends $11 a day, yes, on latte, and I think it's a muffin, but that if she took that $11, put it into an index fund at 10% a year, that could grow to be $1.2 million by the time she turns 65. Now, I would say, although I am 100% on board with the idea of automating your finance, and yes, I am very aware that the empirical evidence suggests that this can be one of the best things to do with your finance, I just find the whole coffee thing, I find it a little bit annoying, because if you take any amount, any small amount, you compound it over half a century at 10% a year, then of course you're going to get a big sounding number. And ultimately, this is something that people can take to the absolute extreme, to the point where it really is marginal gains that are being made. and frankly, this is where I Will Teach You to Be Rich, in my view, has an edge over most personal finance books. It talks about how you should have this direct correlation between the amount you're sacrificing and the amount you will ultimately gain. The Millionaire Next Door. So the idea in this book is that millionaires are all around you. It's not necessarily the case that millionaires are movie stars, rock legends, CEOs, trust fund babies, and everything we would normally associate with millionaires. That actually often people who appear rich are spending a lot more of their income, which may still be considerable, trying to look rich. And actually, the vast majority of millionaires are actually in their late 50s or older and have slowly amassed wealth over many years of living well below their means, investing the surplus, and watching their costs. And the book also talks about some other important topics, which I don't feel like are covered as thoroughly or as in much detail as some of the other books on the list. Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones, by James Clear. I get it. This isn't strictly a personal finance book, but I think it's more than fair to say that this book has personal finance implications and applications. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this quote from the author James Clear. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Now, just rewind for a second. How many times in this video or in the books that we've covered in this video have we talked about systems, automations, and habits? So I think it stands to reason that the application from this book, whilst it may not sit squarely in personal finance, is very much personal finance adjacent. But the book talks about how people fixate on the end goal, which they have no control over, rather than the process that they're going to have to go through to get there, which they do have some control over. And I do like the idea that when it comes to just shaking bad habits, the problem may not be 100% you. It may be the system that you're trying to use. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not necessarily because you don't want to change, but because you need to put more focus, you need to put more emphasis on the systems in order to change. And I must say, one common criticism I see of self-help books, which I must say I do somewhat agree with, although I wouldn't necessarily include this book as being self-help, but we'll discuss the semantics another time. But my personal view is because this book is so much more action-orientated, I don't necessarily think it suffers from this criticism. Meaning of money. If money is all that you are bothered by, then that is part of the problem. There is more to life than money. Money is not necessarily the end goal. It's the tool that you use to get to the end goal, the good life. Now, we did a whole video on this book, but just to give you the quick TLDR, the basis for this book was a study that began in Harvard University in 1938 during the Great Depression. Initially called the Grant Study, researchers followed 268 Harvard undergraduate men. It was a prospective longitudinal study, meaning participants were tracked continuously over time rather than being asked to recall their past later, running the risk that your kind of memory moves the furniture around. This was then merged with the inner city cohort from the Gulag study. In the 1940s, this second cohort was added of 456 boys from working class backgrounds in Boston. Many of them grew up in kind of more challenging and poverty-stricken neighborhoods. So they had participants from affluent, well-to-do backgrounds in one group, and they had people who were from much less economically secure backgrounds in another group. And they tracked them over 80 years. And they took data on blood tests, psychological exams, psychometric tests to really investigate what makes people happy. Now, I know that this is controversial for a personal finance YouTube channel, but life isn't about money. Money is the tool, not the end, and it's about what you do with the money that will ultimately lead to happiness. But don't take my word for it. Link for a deep dive will be right at the end, and I would really recommend you watch it. And frankly, this was kind of an idea that we discussed in the psychology of money, that it's what you do with the money. It's not just having it. It's also something that, again, it features heavily in I Will Teach You to Be Rich. So if I was to give out the medals, bronze, I would have to give it to Atomic Habits and the Algebra of Wealth. I can't quite separate the two. Silver would go to the Psychology of Money because I think it's absolutely correct. How you teach money and how you approach it will have way more of an impact instead of how smart you are. And the gold, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, hands down. As I say, it talks about living beyond the spreadsheet, which in this particular environment, I think is really more valuable. Now, we have some videos that I would really recommend you follow up watching. Why you have to think about money like the 1% just here. This video here, 12 hidden signs you're falling behind financially and may not even know it. And this video here, 17 pension mistakes everyone is making. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you've liked it, please like and subscribe.